Is there such a thing as abuse? We've heard the term, for instance, child abuse or abuser. I'd like to look at an alternative reframing, and maybe we should consider sometime taking this word out of our dictionary completely and replacing it with something else, like stepping into quicksand. For consider that life and reality are complex, first of all. So if we suffer some pain in life, emotionally or physically, there's surely more than one component, reason why. And secondly, even if there were just one issue causing this pain, what about matters of choice? Did the instigator, so to speak, the influence, if people-oriented, choose to do this? In other words, to put it another way, where does the buck stop? For instance, if we had a father or mother who drank too much at times, and we suffered emotionally as children, are we going to call this abuse if, as I would look at it, everybody does the best they can? For if you look at the chain of events, who was the parent of the parent, and so on. Hence, how can we say anyone chose to do something when in fact there's a clear chain of events, and where thus would the buck stop? If I didn't mention so already then, perhaps the term abuse is one way of dealing with something in a simple manner. You might call a simplistic manner, and quite understandable. There is in fact a book out with the title, The Dumbest Generation Ever. But in general, many people know that our schooling is not top material, so to speak. And in fact, Bill Gates of Microsoft has two aims in life over the past 10 years, say, to help other nations overseas with health issues and to help Americans with issues of education. And in a video I saw on his efforts for education in America about 5 years ago, he basically said he's making no headway, despite putting many, many dollars into it of his own and raising other funds also to both help others overseas, again, and our own issues, in this case with education. So the idea of a scapegoat then being a supposed quick and easy solution to the pain not just of one person, perhaps in a family setting, but society-wide. We'd like a quick and dirty solution. Get rid of this one instance causing pain for one person else or many, and that seemingly would solve the whole problem, which is a very short-term view, I believe, and a very simple view. For again, things are complex. The scapegoat idea, in fact, was exemplified in the declaring of certain people to be witches, especially back with the Salem witch trials in America several hundred years ago, in which some women were declared witches, I would say, as a scapegoat mechanism. Additionally, a man in England has written a book entitled Scapegoat, with the subtitle A History of Blaming Other People. This written by Charlie Campbell, C-A-M-P-B-E-L-L. And also on the front cover is a picture supposedly of Eve with the words, "In the beginning, Adam blamed Eve." So many of us, or some of us, might want to make a quick, easy assessment followed by a supposed quick, easy solution to complex matters, and thus say that some one factor is to blame, and that they chose to do as they did also, compounding issues for one person but not the other. Hence the phrase that we've probably all heard, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Even if the crime were small and the time large, and the results overall quite impactful, not only on the person going to prison, say, but on the whole family. So some people might want to say of a parent that the parent is the cause of all their problems, all their pain, and thus the term child abuse. But noting as a counteractive measure various things such as a statute of limitations on such claims in court, probably running out at around the age of 21. And how many a child also has no legal recourse, I might add, as a child to do much of anything, except maybe under some circumstances call child protective services, and rarely would a parent go to prison. They would simply lose custody. And they might even wish in the back of their minds that they could lose custody because they were not cut out for being parents and didn't want to have children in the first place, often perhaps. Noting even that in Romania once, it was required to own a TV set that you have a license, but certainly not in this country a license required to have children. There's also a book by a Dr. Ford named Lies, 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 and in there he talks of the fear of one man, 80 years old, say, that somebody might knock on the door and it be a policeman, and he'd be arrested and carted off to prison by a charge by a child of child abuse, delayed, of course, in that the child filed a charge way later. Others might want to say men are all the problem or women are all the problem. Yet others might want to blame certain physicians, saying physicians prescribe way too many drugs, and that the drugs, if psychiatric in nature, can be quite numbing to any population, quite stigmatizing also, and quite attached the concept in these days that your brain is broken, and so don't even try to do anything to grow. Yet others urge, on the other hand, to take responsibility, or they would say to work on your stinking thinking, as per what AA members do. I haven't been to an AA meeting before, but I understand that is a common phrase and idea. Along with Niebuhr's talk of the Serenity Prayer, and changing what you can, accepting what you can't, and knowing the difference. Some thus, in certain church settings and in rural areas more than not otherwise, would say that too many people are receiving psychiatric numbing drugs and want to blame all society's problems only on doctors and only the ones practicing medicine right now, by the way. Not those who got out of the field or who got out and practiced coaching, shall we say. So there are some, in fact, called anti-psychiatrists. Dr. Zaz up in New York State once, a professor. I'm not sure if he's still alive. Dr. Peter Breggin, for instance, also. And hence also the title of a book, Drugging the Poor, even. The contention made then also by even one of the heads of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual Board, trying to remember the name of him, having come out with a book once, not too long back, Saving Normal. And a physician in Canada, Dr. Gabor Mate, having recently come out with a book on the topic too of what is normal. And in England, Elaine Day Botton, Dr. Elaine Day Botton of the School of Life, urging us to understand that we're all crazy, and that on a first date, he facetiously urges us to discuss with our date the way we are crazy and look for them to explain the way they are crazy alternatively. So there are those who would say they want to pin all blame, all accountability on physicians or certain ones because of the topics of ADHD or bipolar or autism or opposition defiance disorder. And that the terminology is encouraging strongly a brain-based approach, a chemical, biological imbalance approach, and not addressing other factors. To include childhood upbringing, but I might also add overpopulation issues contributing to overcrowding, and technology morphing into more and more noise and more distractive things for purchase and cheap, and on and on and on, including cell phones and the internet, and the advent of DVDs. Yet others wish to blame, if not a parent, or physicians, or somebody. Teachers. They might want to say teachers today are not up to snuff, or schooling is not up to snuff, or bullies are the problem. Again, a one issue supposed solution to complex matters impacting children, but not only children, everybody at all ages. Yet others might want to blame crumbling infrastructure or our leadership. Yet others, the media, or even religion, and the ubiquitous complaints, again, in school settings of bullies. But where have we generally heard anyone talking much about overpopulation abuse, if you wanted to call anything abuse, or modern life abuse, or too many toys available as drugs of choice abuse? This is all to a head in my mind upon seeing a video half a year ago on YouTube entitled, "Don't Blame the Bully, Blame the System." But what in turn is the system but a complex web of matters impacting us as opposed to one source, and a supposed chosen source in its actions? I'd finally say that never have I ever heard the term word abuse, as per our words being typically so inept to describe matters regarding people as opposed to technology or data, that arguably, as one philosopher put it, our words are very clumsy. And others have said words can easily be used to manipulate in general. And some Native Americans, perhaps more in the past, have said white man speaks with forked tongue. And we're using, of course, words. It wasn't referring to gestures or facial expressions or intonation of the voice. I'd just close with a few comments. If we got too close to a cliff and the edge were very steep as per the drop-off and the land close to the edge very unstable, wouldn't we say that we would not say, if falling off, that we suffered from cliff abuse? And if we inadvertently stepped on a mine in a minefield, would we say the minefield caused us abuse and blew off our leg? Similarly, with a lightning bolt strike, if we got hit by lightning, would we be told we suffered from lightning abuse? Or on and on and on, tornadoes, tsunamis, earthquakes. There's even the phrase from the movie The Undiscovered Life with Robert Redford and Morgan Freeman, bears will be bears. If you got mauled by a bear, we wouldn't term something as to our suffering being bear abuse, would we? So I have heard also on videos the term enabling and the term blame shifting. But it seems to me the blame shifter then is trying to point fingers away from themselves as a contributing element but not total element, often in self-defense, especially given our prison system and the inordinately strong punishments. And there is the overall concept of blame in the concept of blame games. Some people adopting, for instance, the view that they have no contributing part any way, shape, or form to anyone else's suffering, and some others adopting the other view that, especially if accused of anything, believing they are the only contributing element to someone else's feelings of pain. Regardless of whether the other person, by the way, might be what you call oversensitive, or in other wording, hypervigilant. And this latter concept being pointed out by the psychoanalyst in the 1960s with his book, I'm Okay, You're Okay. And I dabbled very quickly through that book a couple of weeks ago, and he was pointing out, I believe, two types of people in general. Those who, quote, take no responsibility for any impact of what they have impinged upon others, versus others who take all the blame, so to speak. Noting one final note on the topic, Dr. Les Carter has written a book entitled When Pleasing You is Killing Me, as to this one type of person who takes way too much blame all too easily, when accused especially. And alternatively, the other type being accused, I suppose, of being shameless, having no conscience, or being a so-called sociopath. And once again, the concept in general of the blame game, or finger pointing, and trying to accuse someone of being a sole cause, and by choice, and the other person blameless. This playing out often in marriage settings, especially after divorces, or what have you though, even in political settings especially too, whereupon I saw the other day in a newspaper, it stated that politics these days is more fractionated than ever. Again, the concept of blaming, one party blaming the other, and exclusively so. Even though there is the concept in our own minds somewhere, surely, and some fewer number talking, that in any argument or any conflict in general, each has some part to play. But what is not generally accepted to speak of, I believe, is that maybe it's not just two people involved, but 20 different entities, say, all contributing, like being caught in the matrix, they say, or in a web. So if we wanted to talk being abused, first I think the term abuse implies choice, and secondly it implies a point source of pain and outside of ourselves, supposedly and exclusively. Return once again to the concept of don't blame the bully, blame the system video. But moreover, system implying basically a web, as I would call it, a multiplicity of sources. The simple solution, or short-term solution, expedient solution, would be to simply scapegoat thus one source, and to say that source also chose to do what it did, and is morally thus culpable, blameworthy, shameful, etc. Hence the term moralizing. These are my latest thoughts then on a variety of concepts originating with the concept of abuse, child abuse. But never, as it's stated, there can be other forms of abuse then if you wanted to use that word, like overpopulation abuse, once again, or running out of land abuse thus, or high costs of rent abuse, and on and on and on. To simply finger point at one element seems to me quite problematic and simplistic. And I think more and more people are starting to understand just how complex life is with the technological era we're marching forward in more and more and more. Thoughts here to consider.